Hello, happy Saturday, everyone. Welcome to God's Good Grief Ministry. Today's topic is about suicide, and we have a special guest with us here today, Nomiki Yekani-Mathonsi. I hope I pronounced that right. I was definitely
Yes.
practicing. And she'll be sharing her testimony with us, and please feel free to ask any questions that you may have. So I'm going to introduce her at this time, and then we will go right into your testimony. And we're all ears. We are ready to hear, ready to learn, and to put in practice what we learned today. So Nomiki Yekani-Mathonsi was born in the Eastern Cape Province in South Africa. In 1998, at the age of 23, she was introduced to a non-governmental organization popularly known as Umtapo Center that works with issues of peace, empowerment, social justice, and Ubuntu. That was a turning point in her life. She then dedicated her life to working with communities, particularly young people and women, on issues of peace, human rights awareness, and human rights advocacy. Some call her a community, gender, human rights, peace activist. But Nomiki said that she's just a human being that God has gifted with so much love to give and share with other people to become a voice of those who cannot speak for themselves, and also to help people realize the power they have to speak for themselves. Her husband, she said her husband and her were gifted with three beautiful girls, CJ, Mace, and Nima, and their granddaughter, Munaka. I love the name, so beautiful. She met her husband in 1998. He was a volunteer for Umtapo also, and it was never love at first sight, she says. But you know what? God also always has a story. Amen. So she said it was not love at first sight, but when they realized that they loved and cared for each other, they became inseparable. They got married in 2009, and they remained married up until he passed on the 11th of August, 2020. Everything came to a standstill that day. But God has been so good. And Nomiki says that, like Samson, after Delilah had cut his hair, it started growing back and he slowly regained his strength. She is starting to find her footing and has dedicated her life to using her experience, raising awareness about issues of mental health and mental illness, such as depression, anxiety, suicide, and other mental health related issues. Amen. So we see God has already been using her, her pain for his purpose, for his glory, and to help in the soul winning work of saving others. And so we welcome you, Sister Nomiki. We are so happy to have you. And with that, I'm just going to turn it over and let you get right into sharing. I think one of the first things that I wanted you to share is just about your husband, his name, and just like what type of person was he? What was his personality like and the things he enjoyed?
Thank you for having me. You can see the smile on my face when I have to talk about him. My husband was a very warm person, very loving person. He cared for people. He was a very sharing person. Whatever he has, he will make sure that he will share with the next person. When he was younger, he was quite politically involved in the struggle for liberation in our country. And he grew up in politics, and we met around 1998, 1999. We became volunteers in the organization that I work for, Umtapo Center. And we shared a lot. We will meet in conferences, we'll meet in trainings, we'll meet in community activism. So he was just a people's person. And then we, like I said, we got married in 2009. And we started our family, and our home really became a home for almost everybody. Our house was always full. We had friends, we had relatives, we just had everybody. So it was just a house of warmth, of sharing, of caring, of loving, of giving. And he was just there. He was just there. He was huge. He was tall in stature, very, very intelligent, very smart, very driven. He was a visionary. He was a dreamer. He was a go-getter. He will think, and he was just a person who was just there. He was full of life. He would walk into a room, you will just feel his presence there and there. So he was really just a happy person. He was just a happy person who always wanted to be surrounded by people because of his love for people, which is something that we shared, both of us, because I love people. I love being around people. And yeah, that's the person that he was.
Amen. He sounds like an amazing person and just
Yeah.
really someone that people gravitated to. I love that. I love that. So you can just kind of share with us some of the steps that led up to his passing in August. Like, if you could just take us through, that time frame.
One of the things that suicide has taught me is that you are never prepared, because as a family, as friends, as a spouse, you never dream of a day where your partner or your child or your sister or your aunt, whoever, would decide that today I'm ending it all. So same with us, same with me, because we spend almost all the time together. He had his own issues. He has been dealing with his own personal issues, which is something that we spoke about all the time because we shared almost everything. He was my best friend. We wherever we will go, we will be together. So we shared almost everything. But there was a time and a point where I could feel that as much as he tried to work through the issues that he has been dealing with, some of them are coming from his childhood background, and some of them came out from his own choices that he made as a person. But I used to be there. I used to encourage him. I used to just make sure that I am there to lift him up, to make sure that I tell him it's going to be okay. It is going to be okay. Whatever it is, God is just going to give us strength to pull through. You must hold on, you must hang in there and all that. But with time, I could see that he just changed. He changed personally, but he is changing. I thought that maybe it's related to the fact that he was diagnosed with diabetes, which is something that really, because when he was diagnosed, it was not just a person who got sick and went to the doctor and he was done a checkup and all that. He fainted one day here at home. And then we had to take him to the doctor and he was checked, only to find out that they picked up that his sugar levels have skyrocketed. And then they had to put him in medication, which still, that also, it's something that we felt that we will manage. But with time, it really got bad because he will really have episodes where he will just collapse. But being the person that he was, he never liked going to doctors and hospitals. I will beg him. I will call his friends who are doctors to say, I'm having this problem. And my worry is this person is big. And if he thinks this, I don't know what to do with him. So we will call paramedics sometimes. I'll call family members and tell them that, please, I'll send cars that please go fetch the sisters, go and fetch everybody because this person is not well and all that. But he would literally refuse to go to hospital or be taken by an ambulance. But it's something that also I have thought that we have it. We are going to pull through. We are going to manage it ourselves. But I think it really started to take a toll on him. because he couldn't do the things that he used to do. And there was a point where I got concerned because he was a very outgoing person. He had a lot of friends. My husband was known. I used to tell him when we go into town, there is no day that we'll go to town and he will not be stopped by people. They will be talking to him. And we're like, you know what? It's like you're the mayor of the town. Wherever we go, you just have to stop. So he was known by people, and he will go out. He was an outgoer, but at some point he just was not interested.
That's really interesting you say that, because
He was just not interested in anything. He will be here at home.
Mm. And I was going to say, it's interesting you say that, because that shows you.
Hello.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. I was going to say, it's interesting you say
Yes,
that
I can.
about
Can you hear me?
The effects of his health, because sometimes when we're going through a health crisis, that can also take a toll on us, and lead to us grieving as well. So sometimes it's not even just the actual loss or death of a loved one, but sometimes just the loss of your health or your physical ability to do things. So it sounded like that was a part of
Exactly.
affecting him.
Exactly. Because he was just a person who was there. He loved physical work. He worked in an office. He was the manager in the office of the mayor, but he was just a physical person. We loved working. So the sad thing about his health, it just prevented him from doing some of the things that he liked doing. He loved doing. There were times he would just be home. He will just be home sleeping the whole day. And I had thought that it's the effects of diabetes. His friends sometimes will call him. He will make appointments with his friends that we are going to meet. And when the friends are phoning, he is not answering the phones. Or if he decides to answer the call, he will tell them that, you know what, I'm not around. And that time he's at home with me. So he just took a dive. He just took a dive, but still, it never crosses your mind that something is just seriously not right. Up until, so we had that, and his mood also changed. He had mood swings, he had outbursts and everything, but it's something that it's someone that you're used to, it's someone that you love. You learn to live to know certain behaviors, and you're like, okay, I know him, he's going to be okay and all that. So, but there was a time which it's something that I always go back to, even today. We have a farm, and this afternoon, and we loved spending time at the farm. And this afternoon, we went to the farm, and he just called me. He told me, you know what? I'm sorry if I've never been the person that you had thought that I would be. And I was surprised. That took me by surprise. That, what do you mean? What do you mean? And we spoke about it very lightly. Hello? Network is something else. Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. So, but even then, I just brushed it aside. And then we carried on. And then there is also another day here at home. We were sitting, because now it's COVID. The country is closed. We can't do anything. We are sitting at home. We are on level 5. And at first it was okay, because all of us were like, maybe it's going to take just a few days and everybody can do with a little bit of break. Let's just be at home. But with time, it started to take a toll on us, because we just could not move. We were closed. You can't go to the shops. You cannot do anything. And I could see that he was not easy with that. Because one thing, he never liked enclosed spaces. My husband was a free soul. He just wanted to be out. And this one afternoon, we were sitting, And I could see, and I used to tell him that, you know what, I would be sitting next to you sometimes, but I would not feel your presence. We had that kind of a relationship. Same with him. He will tell me that he will just ask out of nowhere that what's bothering you, like what do you mean? And like, no, I feel that there's something bothering you. And really there would be something, because I'd lost my younger brother, and he knew that when I start thinking about him, my mind will go off. So we had that kind of relationship that even our spiritual beings were so connected. So I asked him that, what today, there's just something that I'm not getting about you and all that. And we started talking. He's saying, you know what, I'm not okay. So I thought he was referring to diabetes. But now I started asking him, what is wrong? Are you feeling weak? Did you take your medication? He's saying, no, it's not diabetes. Like, I was surprised. I'm like, and then what's wrong? He said, you know what? I'm just not feeling happy. I'm just not feeling okay. And I started asking him, what do you mean by not feeling okay? What is it that is not making you happy? And he kept quiet for some time. And he said, you know what, Nomiki, if I have to be honest with you, I don't know. I just cannot explain it, but I'm just not happy. I got worried for a minute, and I was like, should I leave him or should I continue asking questions? So we started talking. I started asking questions. And then when we're talking, because at least I have a little bit of counseling background based on the work that I did with Umtapo, I started asking him questions and questions and questions, up until to a point where he said to me, you know what, I feel like I'm in this big dark hole. I'm trying to get out of it, but I can't. I was shocked, because I've read a little about depression and all that, that when a person says that they are depressed, it feels like they're in this deep, dark hole. But I did not want to show him how scared I was when I heard those words. And the first thing I asked him was, then what do we do about it? He said, before he could respond, I said, you don't think that we need to seek psychological help? And he said, you know what, now that I've spoken to you about it, and the questions that you have been asking me have put me at ease, I think I'm prepared to seek help, but I'm not prepared to seek help here in town or in the nearest town, because I'm known by people. So I said, oh, okay, it's fine. What we can do, I'll organize with my boss. We will drive to Durban. That could also be part of our own outing, that you just go away. But now the problem is that the country is closed, and we can't do anything about it. But we will wait up until the country is opened. Then we can take a drive to Durban, so that you can really try and get psychological help, because I am worried if you're saying that you feel that you are in this big dark hole. But we continued then. The country was closed, and we continued as normal, and life went on up until 2 weeks or a week before his passing. He just became a very unhappy person. He will pick up a fight even with small things. And I just could not understand that. What is it that is making him so irritated, so angry? Now it's even started to impact on our own relationship, but still I did not read much into it. Even the kids could now start to pick up that things are just not okay here at home, because a few days Daddy will be okay, but the next few days Daddy is just not happy. There is just so much of shouting and howling and fighting in the house and all that. To a point that the kids one day came and asked me that, Mommy, what is it? Why are you always fighting with Dad? What is wrong with the two of you? So I was like, you know what, my kids, I don't know. I don't know, but Dede is also going through a rough patch. But my husband was a very lovely person. I remember this afternoon, there was something that went on here at home, and the kids were here. But when he realized that he did not do right with the kids, he called them. He called the kids and he spoke to them that, you know what, Dede is going through a rough patch. Please forgive me. But one thing I'm asking you to do for me is to help me to heal, because I am not okay. I am fighting. I am trying so much to make sure that I become the Dede that you knew. But some of the things that I'm fighting, I feel sometimes that they are defeating me. And he asked the kids, he called the kids one by one, that please write me a letter if you can, and tell me, how do you think I should heal myself? And how do you see myself becoming the dad that you are used to me, and all that? And the kids really, they wrote letters. And she called the big girl and she spoke to her, because they were very close with CJ. Spoke to CJ and told CJ what he's going through, that he is asking her to support him and this and that and that. So it really became, because that's who we are. When there's issues at home, we will come together and sit and talk. We will have our family meetings. We used to call ourselves an executive, and he will just come out one day, or I'll come up one day and say the executive is to meet. Even the kids themselves, if they feel that we don't call family meetings because we'll be so busy, the kids themselves will say, hey, Mommy and Dad, it's long that the executive has met. Can the executive meet? We talk. So we'll talk about almost anything and everything, about school, about life, about things that are happening in the country and all that. So, but days went on. He was just not a happy person. My husband was just not a happy person. But it never struck me that something like this would happen, up until a day before his passing. We were at the farm and he called me. Oh, before the things really looked like they're getting out of hand, after we had the talk, he calls me the other day saying, you know what, baby, come sit next to me. So I went and sat next to him. He said, you know what, I want you to look at me in the eye. You know, like, what happened now? He said, I want to tell you something, that it doesn't matter what will happen. You must never, ever doubt that I loved you. I love you with all my heart. I do not care what will happen. And that's something I wish even today that I should have asked him, that, what do you mean? Where are you going to go? What do you mean when you're saying I should never doubt if anything happened, what will happen? But I never asked it. And I wish maybe I would have asked that, because maybe would have explained more. But fast forward, then a day before his passing, we were at the farm. And then we just became so unhappy. We came back home and I slept. We came later on and he joined me and we slept. In the morning, we were supposed to go to the farm to feed the animals, and he would go to work. After that, I'll also go to work. But when I woke up, I could see that he was still sleeping and he was not an early morning person. So I just decided that, no, I'll just go and fetch the food for the animals, go to the farm, and I'll come back. So when I came back home, I found him, he had already finished dressing up. So when I was coming back home, I'm like, no, we really need to do something, because Dede is just, this is not the way to live. We can't be on each other like that. So I went upstairs and I found him, he'd finished dressing. So when he was about to leave, I said, baby, when you come back from work, can we please find time to sit and talk? He was getting out of the room. He said, you know what, let's talk now. So we sat, and I said, you know what, I am so worried. I am so worried because we've never reached this point in our lives. We've never been on each other's throat like this. There is just something not right. What is it? What is it that is making you so irritated? Because now it's like I'm walking on eggshells. I don't know whether I'm doing the right thing because you are just not happy. And I don't know what to do now anymore. Oh, God, could not finish it. He said, yeah. You know what? You think your life is perfect. I'm like, oh, okay, Nomiki, keep quiet. You think your life is quiet. He went on and on. You know what? No one questions my authority. I'm the voice of reason in this house. Where does this come from? I know the things you say with your kids about me. And I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ. What? Because he used to say, I remember when the day we spoke about this whole depression, he says to me, you know what? It's like there are voices. I feel my anger when it's coming, or this sadness when it's creeping in. I feel these voices. I try to fight it, but it becomes so powerful that the only way I can release it is if I hold you and shake you. And I told him that one day you will not shake me, you will kill me. So you need to fight as much as you can, baby, because it can't be. You cannot let those voices overwhelm you. So when that day he told me about these voices, what am I saying with the kids? I just said there, I said, Nomiki, keep quiet. Don't say anything. Let him vent out whatever he wants to vent. And then, so I just kept quiet. I said, no, it's fine. He said, yeah, I'm telling you, no one questions my authority. I said, no, it's fine, baby. Then he left, he went to work. So I called the kids. I said to my kids, you know what? Because definitely they had the commotion again. I said, you know what? You might have heard me and Daddy again. Things are getting out of hand, and I'm getting worried for our safety and for your safety. One way or the other, I need to find help. Either I go and find help and leave you, but if I go and leave you, don't think I'm turning my back on you. But we need to find help because our family, you can see the executive is falling apart. Tell me, I asked the kids, is there anyone amongst you who could be talking to Date and say, maybe we are saying things that we are not aware that we are saying about it? The kids, they are saying, no, mommy, you know, we spend most of the time with you. We never spend a lot of time with Date, only because he's always at work, only when we're together as a family and all that. So we said that, okay, Daddy is Daddy. Daddy, we know him. He's our dad. Call him and tell him that the executive has to meet so that, mommy, we fix this because we can't carry on like this as a family. I called him, baby, are you busy? Yes, I am. I said, when you are done, can you come home? We want to talk to you. We came back after he said, no, I'm busy, but I will come home. So I said goodbye. We went on with our business with the kids and we cleaned the house. It was still in the morning. After some time, he came. And then we came, I called the kids up. That come, Daddy is here. We called him. So I said, you know what, baby, I'm calling you because in the morning when you left, you did not leave in a good spirit. And the kids, they heard this again. So I called them. I spoke to them. So we are calling you now because we want to talk to you. That we need to do something here at home because things are not okay. There is just a certain level of unhappiness with the kids, with us, as mommy and Dad. I did not finish those words. His response was, okay, you are calling me all the way from work to interrogate me. Who do you think I am? Bloody shit, I'm not doing this with you. The kids, they jumped, they came down, we ran down the stairs. It was a big thing. We ended up running out of the yard because he was chasing us away, get out and all that. So I said, no, kids, let's go. So we went and I called the cops, please come. There's something happening at home. There was no response. The cops are saying, please come. I'm saying, I don't have a car and I've got kids. I can't leave the kids. I can't walk to the police station. I've got kids with me and yeah. So we waited. They said they will send a van. We waited and waited and waited on the streets. They never came. Up until then, he came. He came with his car where we were sitting, called the small girl, gave a note and spoke to her. I did not know I did not see the note. Only when the commotion was happening, I got to know about the note that she was given. And then he reversed and he left. So I said to the kids, with daddy, he's like that. When he's angry, he's going to take his car. He might have gone now. Let's go back home. We went home. We just turned the corner right in front of the gate. And I realized that the gate is locked and the cars are still inside. Now we don't have the keys to get inside. And then the big girl says to me, Mommy, do you have a curtain in your bathroom? I lifted my eyes up. I'm like, no. When I'm lifting my eyes up, I'm saying no. Just when I looked on the bathroom window, I realized that no, that's not a curtain. It's a duvet cover. Just when I see the duvet cover, we get a sound like a boom sound. Now I'm wondering what could be happening. Where is that coming from? The next thing, we get a gas smell. We opened a gas cylinder that was in our room because we used it for our heater. And the lady who stays next door, that time she's coming back from work, coming home. So I ran to her. I said, you know what? Something bad is happening at home. We are getting a gas smell and there's this sound. Please borrow us hammers and whatever we can get so that we jump over and we hit the windows and the doors and everything so that there's air that's coming in, because whatever is happening, daddy is. Now, I can't remember who asked that. Nyema, when daddy called you, what did he say? He said, he told me that he loves me and he gave me this note. I did not even look at the note because my head was focused on what is happening and trying to save. And that time, people in the street, they are out. We are looking for hammers. We are looking for step ladders. We are looking for whatever we could get. But still, we can't get inside the house because we've got an electric fence. But now, one of the kids thought that, Mommy, we did not put on the electric fence last night. It's not going to be as strong. Let us jump over. One of the boy jumped over, his son jumped over, gave him the hammer that hit whatever window, whatever door, whatever glass, as long as there's going to be air coming in. He jumped over, hit the windows, he got into the house, opened the door. We could hear him chasing him from inside because he got in this child and said, Daddy, Dad, stop it. Stop, what are you doing? I could hear his voice from outside. That get out, you will get out the way you got in. And the child, because he was also starting to cough because of the gas fumes, he went out. So the big girl, we ran to the opposite neighbor, and there was a person who was working on the garden. The big girl thought, CJ, that no, man, I know how to open the door the gate manually, because we could not get entrance into the house. So CJ jumped over also the fence, went inside, took the keys for the gate, opened the gate manually. That time my head is, I'm done. I don't know. There's people on the street. People are trying to call the police. They're trying to call paramedics. I don't have the phone. My phone, I left it on top of the sofa when we were talking to him. And then, but ultimately, this guy got a step ladder. Yeah, I remember. And he tried to go up the roof to our bathroom. So he peeped through the bathroom and he turned back. When he turned back, CJ was like, Mommy, I'm going in. Give me the hammer. She went up the ladder, hit the bathroom windows, all of them, and he threw herself inside the bathroom window. She started screaming, Daddy, why did you do this? Will somebody give me a knife? Somebody give me a knife. Now the gate is open. People are coming in and they can see that he has hanged himself in the bathroom. And I keep screaming that open the doors. There's no keys. No, my house does not lock. because when he's angry, I used to make sure that I take all the keys, because he had this thing of taking keys and lock doors and all that. It's like some people must not get out. So I told people, open the bathroom door. It's not locked. My house, I don't lock the bathroom. I do not lock the bathroom. And people are saying the bathroom door is locked. How? I don't know. But ultimately, people managed to break the door. And then he had gone. That was it. And the girl cut the rope, CJ cut the rope, because it just happened. It was just in a very short space of time. Same with me. I never thought that he was gone. And my neighbors kept coming and telling me that, no, it's fine, because the paramedics had come, that they're working on him. He's going to be fine. They're working on him. Up until my neighbor came to me and told me that, you know what, we can't hide it from you anymore. Your husband is gone. It's finished. It's done. And that was it.
Wow. Oh my gosh. When you were talking about his mental state and the voices and stuff, and the torment that he was experiencing, in any of your conversations with him as he was telling you that he's not okay, did you ever say to him that maybe you're depressed or anything, or did you think that maybe that would have kind of triggered him? He did seem like he was open to get help, but it also seemed like there was kind of certain things you couldn't kind of touch on because you didn't want to kind of ignite, any hostility.
The day we spoke, when I said I asked him questions when he was saying he was unhappy, because I started asking, like, you leading questions, because I did not want him to feel that I'm making him look sick or feel sick. But I just asked him questions that are leading him on to be able to open up to me, because even the depression word came out of him, because he said, you know what, because I asked him that, tell me, how do you feel? What do you mean we're not happy? What he's like, I sometimes I feel anxious. It's like there's something just is not right, or something bad is going to happen. And it's like, tell me what is it that brings. So I asked him questions that will lead him to really ponder into himself, because after some time he said, you know what, I've read about depression. I think after you have asked me all these questions that you have asked me, I think I'm depressed.
Okay.
I think I'm suffering depression. And I was like, whoa. But I did not want to show him that I was scared and shocked.
Okay.
I was like, oh, okay, it's fine. Then is it possible that we can find help? And he was like, I think we can, but I'm going to be honest with you. I don't want to consult locally or in any town near here, because I'm known by people, and I don't want people to know about my sickness. And that's one thing that we used to be on each other about, that, for instance, when he has these episodes where he will faint and all that, I will call his family, because there is no way he can be sick and I will not tell people. But the minute he hears after some time that the sister was here, the youngest, he will be so angry with me that, why do you tell people about my sickness? Why do you tell people when I'm sick? I'm like, how do I hide the fact that, imagine if something happens to you and nobody knows that you're sick?
Exactly.
How will people look at me, that I sit with you at home, you have your episode, because it's not just any sickness. You faint and you scare me. I get scared. And now I'm worried that if I don't tell people, and people hear it from other people, that, or they hear it from the kids, that there were days that they fainted and all that, how do I look at myself? How do people look at me? What is it that I'll say I'm hiding by not telling other people that you are sick? So that's also one thing, that he never wanted people to know that he was sick. I think because of the kind of a person that he was, and also his social stature, because he my husband will be a person who, if you have a problem, you will go to. And people who had problems will go to, and he always had solutions for them. He never liked to see people suffering. He never wanted to see or hear that the other person is suffering. So I think for him also, showing up to other people that he is not okay, or reaching out to local people, I think for him it would have looked like it's a kind of weakness, that it's taking away a certain level of power from him as a person. And it's so sad, because I remember there's a day you once told me that, you know what, sometimes I look at you and feel that I don't deserve the love that you give me. And it used to hurt me. I'm like, what do you mean? You deserve anything and everything that you are getting from us and the kids, because you are just the best person that God has blessed us with, to call a husband, to call a friend, to call a dad. So it hurts me when you feel that the love that I give you, you don't deserve it, because you deserve it all. So there are just those things where you just did not know where it stems from. But I knew, because we've spoken a lot. But like I always say, that as much as a person will have issues, you'll have problems, but suicide never crosses your mind. It never, it's something that was never even spoken about in my house. It's something that was just so far away. That is why when I do my sessions with people and schools, I always tell people that no family asks for it. No one asks for it. And it becomes so sad that people who have been impacted by suicide, they become victims of stigma, they become victims of stereotype, they become victimized and all that, because no family asks for it. No one. You don't walk around. Like, for instance, in our country now, there's a wave. There is just a wave. A day or two does not pass without hearing that somebody has died by suicide. So I always tell people that no family, because one thing that comes with it is that, particularly in our Black communities, there's always somebody who has to answer. And it becomes worse if it is a couple. As a wife, you need to know everything. To a point where you then become accused that you know everything, you killed him, you are responsible for it.
Mercy. And
so
you said in the, especially in the Black communities, it is true in what you were saying about when your husband said, I want to get help, but I don't want it to be local. I don't, because I'm known among people. And I feel like that's a lot that you hear in the Black communities. We don't want anyone to know that we have issues and that we need to get help. We don't want anyone to see that we are not as strong as we are putting up to be. And I feel like that right there also, continues to keep the stigma going.
Exactly.
When I think about, people who die by suicide, and families who don't want to say how their loved ones passed, like they'll say, oh, they had some sickness, like they'll make something up because of all the shame and the guilt that they have to deal with. And so I love that we're having this conversation, because it's a silent killer, and we're enabling it when we continue to be silent
about it. Yeah. We enable it because of the shame that gets attached to it, the stigma that gets attached to it. I had my own fair share of troubles when my husband passed on. I had it. But one thing, and I remember, because the sad thing about my husband, he left a suicide note, and a very nasty note. And people used it to make sure that they are going to gun for me.
Oh my God.
They are going to put me down. If I have to be arrested, I must be arrested because I killed him.
Oh my God.
And I always say to people that for us to win the battle against suicide and all the other mental health related illnesses is how families, it's how communities, is our whole society, how it responds to suicide. Because if we continue victimizing, stigmatizing, stereotyping, and doing all these things, we create a cycle. We create a cycle because when those things happen, they push you in a very bad mental state. Because now, instead of focusing on dealing with the loss of a husband, you are dealing with all these other issues. And they're big issues because people don't become merciful, they become merciless towards people who have been impacted by suicide. People don't people don't think that when they say these things to a wife, a child, a sister, a brother who has lost a person or a loved one by suicide, the things they say, they don't realize that they are not saying it to that person only. They are saying it to any other person who is dealing with mental illness and any other family that has dealt with that. So people, when they listen to things that other people say, when they shame people who have been impacted by suicide, they don't realize that they are creating a cycle of this monster to continue to ravage families, to ravage communities, to ravage the society. Because really, the main thing why people get scared to come out, they are scared of stigma. People don't want to talk about it. They don't. I remember when I spoke to my kids, and my kids were saying, Mommy, you have dealt with a whole lot of issues. Use our experience, use your experience to create awareness, because it is only when people start talking about this thing that it's not shoved underneath the carpet that we will be able to face it head on.
Amen. So
because in the process, people disappear. It's like you have a pandemic. It's like you have a disease that if people come to you within no time in their families, somebody is going to be suicidal and they're going to die by suicide. And people don't realize that the depression and other mental related illnesses, they are, it's a medical condition. It is a medical condition like any other condition. And if we don't treat it as such, especially in our Black communities, there is so much misinformation. There is so much myth around suicide. There is this whole lot of things that people talk about, and they are very far-fetched from what suicide and depression and other related sicknesses are.
Wow. Wow. So true. I just want to pause for a minute and let everyone here on. If you have any questions, please feel free to unmute yourself. Nomiki is open to answering any questions that you have. So please unmute yourself, join the conversation or comments, or if you had an experience by losing a loved one by suicide, please share. This is an open, conversation. I know it just seemed like us too, but please unmute yourselves and share and ask any questions that you may have. That Nomiki, I wanted to ask you, in everything that you've gone through and the loss of your husband, how has this affected you in your mental health and taking care of your mental health?
In the beginning, it was hard. I'm not going to lie. It was hard, and I prayed all the time that I don't go through the same path. Because the sad thing about me, like I'm saying, is I had my fair share of victimization. I had my fair share of secondary trauma. Instead of dealing with the fact that I've lost my husband, I had to deal with trying to defend myself because people were gunning for me. People were just gunning for me. I was investigated. And so it impacted on me very badly. I would spend days in bed, not wanting to talk to anybody, not eating, not doing anything. I was just on my lowest that I've been. So emotionally, I was not okay. But it goes back then to what we were talking about us as Black people sometimes, where I felt okay taking my kids for counseling and psychological help. But I felt myself that I've got this. I will deal with it. And my kids will also beg me that, maybe I think you also need to go. And I'd be like, no, I'm okay. Which I did not see that I was not okay. Up until one afternoon, I felt that now I'm not okay. I can feel that I'm suffocating. And I called this lady, the one who I took my kids to. She's a psychologist, also a Black woman, very lovely person. And I called her, I said, you know what? I need to see you. Whether you are not in your office, whether you're at home, I want to see you now. Otherwise, I am losing it. She just called me, said, come, I'm at home. Come. I went and we spoke. No formality, no nothing. You know, when you like, I know that I'm talking to a psychologist, but I'm talking to my sister. We spoke. And from that day onwards, I started to get my power back. I started to get my energy back. It was not overnight. Even now, I still have my low days. I still have my high days, but that they are not as bad. I am more forward looking now than backward looking, because there was a point where my life was just on a standstill. My life, I remember last year with my kids, it was my birthday, and they're saying to me, Mommy, you're 48, 47. I'm saying, no, it can't be. Like, Mommy, you are 47. I'm like, no, I'm 46. Well, Mommy, you were 46 last year. So that whole year from 2020 till 2029, it just did not exist. That's how bad it was. My life was still stuck on the 11th of August, 2022. But slowly with time, and I think also because of the journey that I've started to embark on, using my experience to talk to people, to openly talk about it, even on my statuses, on my social media platforms. I send messages and people respond. So I've used my experience to help me also to be part of my own healing. That I talk a lot about issues of suicide. I'm open about it. We talk a lot with my kids. We always talk about it. It has just become part of our conversation. We help each other to heal. That if the other one is not feeling well, is not feeling okay, we gather together. We sit, we cry if we have to cry. We hold on to each other if we have to hold on to. So things they've been much better. I think also because I've been able to speak about it, people are starting to open up to me, because there was a point where there was just no one. It was only my family from my mother's side. There was just no one. But because of how then I've started opening up and visiting families, I visit families of people who have been impacted by suicide, and we sit, talk, have tea, and it has just been, because when I listen to their stories, it's like listening to somebody telling my own story, but it's being told by somebody else. So yeah, it's not an easy journey, because sometimes you see things, you hear things that people go through when they've been impacted by suicide, and the sad thing is that people who do things, bad things to them, it's the same family members who should have been giving support and holding their hands through. Because dying, I'm not saying, I'm not downplaying or validating how other people die, but I mean, a person dying by suicide, it's just, I'm not saying that you think that somebody will be murdered or somebody will be involved in a car accident, but for me, 1 minute this person is okay, you're talking to, and then this person then decides that I'm ending it all. I ask myself, I used to ask myself, because I don't ask myself that now, that where was the rope that my husband used to hang himself? How did you know how to tie a knot that is going to make sure that it finishes him? How did you see and looked at the gas cylinder that we used to use for our own warmth, and how we'll cuddle in front of the TV, in front of a heater? How did you know that you can use that as a weapon to just open it? So those are things that I used to ask myself before, but at least now I've come to accept that certain questions I might never have answer for. So if I keep asking myself those things, I'm really hurting myself, because this person is not there to answer these questions. So yeah.
And that's true. As you're saying that, I was thinking about, one of the stages, and I believe there's many stages in grief, but one of them, as you were just saying that, I was thinking about the bargaining and guilt state, where's the what if and if only I did that, if only I was there in time, if only I didn't leave that. Because I've done that. I beat myself up, when my brother was murdered. What if I called more? What if, I invited him over more? What if, but nothing would have done, would have changed, that, as much as we would have loved that too, but it wouldn't have changed it. And I love that while your kids are in counseling, they're like, Mom, I think you need to join us too, right? Because we want them to do this, but we also have to be the example, because your healing is as important as their healing. And I love that you're healing together. You're taking time out, like, hey, I'm not okay. Let's sit down. We're crying together. We're healing together. And that's important, when we can't continue to enable and feed into these stigmas, because like you said, it's going to continue to be that cycle. And when we had our call, I think last week, so we could kind of discuss how this was going to go, we were saying that we need to talk about this more, because what we want is to be a history of people who have been healed, right? We're all about Black history and the people who came before us, but what about us? What about this generation, right? We don't have to be known as somebody who invented this or had the best music, but let us be known as the people who were healed. We were mentally whole, and mentally healthy and emotionally healthy, and we're passing that on to children, to grandchildren, great grandchildren, to our communities, to in our church families, in our schools. Let that be our history. Let that be our legacy. That we're mentally and healthily whole. We have a whole holistic state. So I love that you're saying that. We have a comment or question in the chat. It says, is there anything in retrospect that you would do differently to take better care of yourself after the trauma? So when you think back, is there anything that you would do differently to take better care of your mental health after the trauma?
Where I'm at now, Molly, I wish that I would have gone for counseling earlier, because I don't think it would have, because I really hit a rough patch, a very bad patch. I would be in bed and sleep. And I wish I had gone earlier, because had I done that earlier, I think for me, I would have really given myself more time to heal quicker than I have done now. But still, that also, it's part of the process, because sometimes you are not in control. You are just going through these emotions. You are going through hurt. You are going through pain. You are going through loneliness. You don't know how to live alone. I've known my husband from when I was 24. And I know him for more than 24 years. It has always been Castro Nomiki. He was not popularly known as Castro. So it has always been Castro Nomiki, Castro Nomiki. Kids, it has always been mommy and daddy, mommy and daddy, mommy and daddy. So I went to a point where I just did not know how to live by myself. I did not know what to do with myself. I did not know what to do with just anything. So I wish there's one thing I wish for now is that if maybe I had gone earlier, but still the if does not help because I was going through this whole lot of emotions. So yeah.
You're muted, Crystal.
Thank you. I was just going to say, yeah, just trying to find that new normal, because your life definitely is impacted, with grief and loss. Nothing's going to be the same, but you need to
No.
how to move through that grief, right? And like you said, you continue to look forward. You're moving forward and doing things. How are the children? How are they doing?
I would say they're okay. They're not fine. Um, Kids who have, because the sad thing about us is that we experienced the whole thing playing out in front of us because we were just outside the gate. And my kids, they took a knock. They really took a knock. The first girl, because she was the one who tried to cut the father from the rope, and she had to be put on antidepressant. She really took it bad because they were very close. They spoke up. She spoke to him more than she spoke to me. So they took a knock, a really bad knock, and but slowly they are coming out to be very strong young women. Very strong young women. The youngest is only 10. Niema is only 10. But bless her school, because one of the things that happened after the father passed away, she did not like school. She never wanted to be at school. She just wanted to be left alone. But when she then gathered the strength to go, the school took her for counseling, for psychological help and all that. So at least they are really coming. Like I'm saying, we spend most of the time together at home, or when we go out as a family, the four of us together with my granddaughter. So we spend most of the time trying really to heal ourselves. And so slowly they're getting there. They are much better than they were, because there was a time where I would be so scared. I'll wake up at night, go into their rooms and check if they're still okay. Because the thing about suicide is that the likelihood sometimes of kids who have experienced that and the trauma is not supported, is that there is a likelihood that they can go through the same. So that used to keep me awake at night. I would wake up in the evening and go hour after hour just to peep into their rooms to see if they're okay. I took everything that has to do with pills and medication, put it in my room. I've never bought a rope in my house. I don't know where that rope came from. So anything that has to do with, I know that anything can be a weapon, but I lived with that fear all the time, that I just don't want them to be exposed to anything that I think that they can use. But now we are okay. We are slowly becoming your new normal family. But yeah, it's not an easy road. It's a difficult one. I wake up with days where when I open my eyes, my husband's presence has already filled up the room, and it messes my day up, and that's that. But I've been blessed, and I think that's why I use my experience, because as much as we have experienced such loss, but there are blessings that came along. I mean, we've had people who offered to give psychological help, counseling, and all that. And that is why I took my own time now to go to families who have not been blessed like I am, to go to meet and ask, have you received any psychology? But my worry is if that trauma is not dealt with, it sits somewhere and it will find its way of coming out one day. So we've been blessed with my kids. So that's why I dedicate my time to go to people and ask, would you want help? Are you open for counseling? Are you open for talking to a psychologist? So I go to my friends and say, I've got this family, please see them. They don't have money, they're in rural areas, they are not working, but please, if you can just give yourself an hour or two to just sit with the kids and listen to them, so that at least that pain, because pain, it feels better when it's shared. It really feels better when it's shared, yeah.
Amen. I love that. I love that. That's what I always say about, just talking about these things and being in this kind of ministry and this kind of work is just not like you that's going to be healed, but as you're healing, you're helping other people to heal as well. As I was some reading about, suicide, when I was looking at the statistics, and not just how many people have died by suicide, but also how many people have the thoughts and how many people have attempted, suicide. And, I just said, that's just one too many precious souls, one lives that's gone. And whatever you can do to help, prevent, whether you're just sitting with someone and listening to them and, visiting them, even as what you're doing, like anything that you can do, please help. I wanted, if you could share with us a little bit also about the terminology. I remember in our conversation, you had said something about the terminology. I think when we were talking, I said something about committing suicide, and you kind of clarify the terminology a little bit.
I feel that it's a wrong narrative when people use a wrong narrative when say people have committed suicide. Because for me, I don't think there is anybody who goes around committing himself or herself that I want to kill myself. I want to kill myself. So for me, I feel that people die, but if we believe in our hearts that suicide is a medical condition, then people die by suicide, like dying by any other disease. So for me, I feel that people, if you say to them that they committed suicide, there is a certain level of capability that you are pushing into themselves. But where they are at when they're doing that act, I don't think it's really about them wanting to die. I say to people all the time, I don't think my husband wanted to die. My husband just wanted to live. He loved life. But for me, I think people numb the pain. They want to numb that pain at that moment. So it's not about saying, I am committing myself to killing no. It is at that point when a person is saying, this is just too much. And I always say to people, maybe because it's too close to my heart, that I always say to people that if definitely there was another way of numbing whatever that is so painful that people go through at that moment, they will go through that other alternative. But to them, at that point, the pain is just too much. Whatever causes that pain, it becomes too much. So it's not like they are there, they want to. No, it is just the pain that has overwhelmed this person to say, I can't take it anymore. And I feel worried also when people say that people who die by suicide, that they are weak. They are taking the easy way out. I don't think it's the easiest way out. I don't think it is. I think it is the hardest way out, because definitely this person has to weigh all these things in his head or her head. So all those things that people say to judge people, that they are weak, they are this, they are that. It is not. My husband was never a weak person. He was never a weak person. He's the strongest person I have ever met in my life, and I was so blessed to get to share my life with him. He was never weak. He was never weak. It's just that there are things that he dealt with that he just at some point could not open up more to me. Because also, one of the things about particularly with men is that they can share to a certain extent, but with my husband, I would talk about him. I don't want to generalize also, that he would share certain things, but I think there are things that he just felt I could not share with, because he maybe felt that if I think I'm making myself too vulnerable to this woman, that she, in a way or the other, she's going to feel, he felt that maybe I'll be taking his power away from him of being the man of the house and the husband to me, that he could share, but there's just a point where, sorry, he just could not. There are just certain things, because I asked myself today that what is it that he could not tell me that really made him feel that this is it, I'm done.
Well, this is hopefully be my last question. Bless you. Can you share with us just from your experience some things that maybe we can look out for? Because when you were talking about, you know, the aspect where you're like, I'm thinking he's depressed, that really spoke to me, because that's how I felt, you know, in 2016. I experienced a lot of loss in 2017, but 2016, I was going through depression, and I didn't even realize I was depressed. And I kept saying to my friends, I was like, I don't know. I don't know what it is. Is there something on me? There's something suffocating me. I don't know. And until we had someone come to our church. This gentleman come to our church. He, I believe, was a therapist, and he had all these resources. But he did give us an opportunity to sit down with him and kind of talk to him. And so he did like this test with me, this depression test, and it revealed like I was like chronically depressed, and I didn't even know that. I wasn't to the point where I went my life, but I was really chronically depressed, and so that's when I was just like, I'm going to seek help. I called my health insurance to see if there was anyone in my area that they covered. And I just like went and you know, got help and stuff. And so, you know, with depression, it's really, wow, it's really hard to like diagnose, because sometimes you just think, you know, us living in New England, you feel like you just have the winter blues, you know, you're dealing with seasonal disorder, but then you don't realize like you're really depressed. So is there anything that stood out to you in everything you went through that you could share with us that maybe we can look out for in someone who may be struggling with suicide thoughts?
I think for me, to notice the changes in the person, especially how the mood you will say it's mood changes, but they are not mood changes that are deeper than that, where a person even starts to do things that you would never think they would do. I remember my husband, we spent most of the time watching TV with the kids when we get time, because kids, we would study. I was studying, he was studying to become a lawyer. So we would study, but there are shows, family shows, that we'll sit and watch together. And we knew that we enjoyed them because we would laugh about them. They were our just fun time. But he will sit there, and then the next thing he vanishes. He comes upstairs, he's sitting by himself without no explanation or anything. And I'll come up like, and then and the kids will notice that, Mommy, you know, these days that Didi will be sitting and watching our favorite shows, but he'll just go upstairs and disappear. And also this whole thing I was saying in the beginning, that if a person is a person who's outgoing, and then all of a sudden there's a change, this person is sleeping most of the time, or he's just sitting by himself, or those are things, especially, I mean, everybody goes through that time with some phase where you just like, I'm tired. But then if it becomes recurrent, and it becomes a worrying thing that, no, man, I know that this person loves to relax and all that, but now this is becoming too much. So they're just sides, even things that people say. So my husband, when I said, he has said a lot of things. He had said certain things that when I look back now, I'm like, what was he telling me? I wish I had pondered him. When you said that, sit next to me, let me tell you, it doesn't matter what will happen. You must never doubt that I loved you. Like, I wish I would have asked him, that, where are you going? What do you mean? Or, I'm sorry that I was never a husband that I was supposed to be. You have not done anything to me. Why? Why are you apologetic to a point? So that there are certain things that people do. I know that to us, because like I'm saying, no one thinks about suicide. You don't walk around thinking that this person is going to go. But there are pointers. There are pointers out there. And also people would then, I mean, some people will get into risky behavior. They will have this rage that just from nowhere. So there are all those things that people can start to look into. And but it's so one thing about suicide, it's very complex. It's not the same. It is not the same. I can have this, and other people, they don't even give hints. So it is just a very complex sickness that there's no blueprint for it. There is no blueprint for it, because it just takes different forms and different shapes. So there's really no cut. But the only thing that I always tell people, that if a person tells, for instance, with my husband, had he not talked me out of it, that will be fine. Let me not consult. When a person tells you that, I feel that try and make sure that you get help as soon as possible. Don't allow them to talk you out of it.
Okay.
I don't allow them to talk you out of it. When my husband said, I don't want, I respected his decision, but at the same time, I have pushed him, because you never know how close to the edge they are. So when they bargain with you to say, I understand, but sometimes that but then becomes your missing link to understanding how close this person is to the edge. Because in reality, there are triggers. There are triggers. I mean, you never know what will trigger a person. So if a person is close, is saying, I am depressed, if you can, try and get help as soon as you can. Because one thing about depression and all this is they are silent. It's not like a person who's crying and say, I have a headache, I can't breathe, I have a headache, I have a headache. No.
Wow. Wow. Thank you for that. As I was just learning and thinking about all of the loss that's been happening by suicide in the past few months, a lot of celebrities, the Miss America girl, Regina King's son. And something I noticed that was always said was like, they were always smiling. They were always happy.
Yeah.
They didn't see this coming. And, my heart just really goes out to, the families. There was actually a young lady, my sister had sent me a text about her. She was, I believe, on a girls soccer team, and she ended up, taking her life dying by suicide. And the parents and she was on a college campus, and the parents are, so in shock, beside themselves, and they never seen that coming. And so I love that you shared, this with us, just looking at the behaviors and the mood swings, because it is hard, especially when you're like, this is a happy going person, and you just don't see it smiling, and they're among people, and, it's, yeah. So we have to, make, we are.
My husband was only left with 6 months into becoming a lawyer. I remember 2 weeks after we buried him, after his funeral, the delivery truck rocks up in front of my yard. They've come to deliver his books, his package. I'm like, oh, God, grace. 6 months into getting his degree and become a lawyer.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Wow. We just don't know. We have to keep our eyes open, our ears open,
Yep.
hearts open. We have to be compassionate. We can't just dismiss or
Yep.
be dramatic. They're doing too much. We really have to, pay
To
attention.
read, we need, I read, get more information, become aware. Because there's so much information there. There is so much of information. It's just that people, because you don't think about it, but the way in which the rate that suicides are taking place, it is calling each and every one of us into action. Because you never know. No family asks for it. You never know. You just never know when it will rock up into your home. I always listen to or read what people write on social media, the vile things that they say. And I sit and wish that how I wish they can use the same energy to create awareness about all these illnesses rather than to use that energy to continue to secondary traumatize people who have gone through suicide or people who have been impacted by suicide, because it calls each and every one of us have a responsibility towards each other. I have a responsibility towards you. You have a responsibility towards me, because we make the whole. So more than anything, and it's so sad because life has become so busy. People are so busy out there, and we forget to be there for each other. We forget to be there for each other.
That is so true. Wow. Before we end, I just want to check if anyone has any questions. You can unmute yourself and ask your question, or if you want to just drop it in the chat box and I can read it out. I just want to make sure that all hearts and minds are clear. That's it. Okay. Nellie, can I call on you? I don't know if she's at her computer.
Yeah, I'm here.
You ready? Okay. So at this time, before we close out, I just wanted to have Nellie just sing a hymn of meditation for us, and I just pray that you just let the words just minister to your hearts. And after that, we'll close out. And I wanted to know if I can ask Rick to do a closing prayer for us, please. Thank you. Go ahead, Nellie.
Come ye disconsolate, where ye languish, come to the mercy seat, fervently kneel. Here bring your wounded hearts. Here tell your anguish. Earth has no sorrow that heaven cannot heal. Joy of the comfortless, light of the straying, hope of the penitent, faithless and pure. Here speaks the tenderly say, earth has no sorrow that heaven can.
Amen. Thank you so much, Nellie. At this time, we'll have Rick give us a closing prayer, please.
Father in heaven, we thank you once again for yet another day that you have granted us. We thank you so much for the message that we have received and the testimonies that we've heard. Father God, there's so many things that we do not understand in this life, but we do know you said you are the resurrection and the life. And any man that comes to you will be saved. And so, Father, for those who have passed away, the things that we do not understand, as the sister said, the idea of committing suicide versus they were taken by suicide. Those are the things that you all know, and you are God. And that's why we know there will be surprises in heaven. People that we don't expect to see, we will see. But while we're here on earth, Lord, we ask that you give us the wisdom and the understanding that we may be open to your spirit as you tell us to go visit, go speak, go move, go say a word to somebody in need. And so, Lord, continue to lead us to help others, continue to give us clarity, to be sensitive and understanding and open-minded to the effects and dealings of our neighbors around us. Continue to be with us, continue to be with the sister who gave her testimony and her children, and all of us who have been touched by death and grief. Thank you for this program. May you continue to bless and inspire this program, that it may reach and touch others, and even the people that it touches on this channel, that they may go and reach and touch others as well. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you so much for being our God. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much, Rick. Nomiki, I don't know if you have a website, but I did put your Instagram in the chat. So you can reach her at Nomiki19 on Instagram, and just continue to encourage her in the work that God is calling her to do as she help others, who have lost loved ones, who have died by suicide. And, we have to be there. Like Rick said, be compassionate, be patient and understanding, and asking God for wisdom, and guiding us to take care of each other. So thank you so much. So
Thank
much.
you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. I think also this opportunities like this also gives me space to heal, because sharing your grief also helps in your own healing. So thank you so much. Hopefully this is not the first and the last time we're meeting. If there's any other meetings, when I have time, I will definitely connect. I will spread the word, and
Definitely.
yeah. Thank you so much.
It will not be the last time. I do expect to see you again.
Yeah.
We meet on the third Saturday of every month. So next month we'll be meeting on April 19th, which is the 4-year anniversary of God's Good Grief Ministry. Praise God. So
Wow.
I hope to see you all then. I thank you all for coming. Those who have been coming, those who are the first time, you are welcome. It's been a joy having you. And I just want to encourage you to remember to do whatever you need to do to take care of you. All right, guys, and God bless, and wishing you a wonderful week.
Bye.
Bye. God bless.